Introducing Quik-Irr 6 bidding and estimating software for the green industry. Quik-Irr helps you determine your break-even point quickly and accurately and provides a breakdown of all the costs associated with the job, including labor, equipment, labor rates, materials, and overhead. Before we create a bid, there are a few things that should be set up to take full advantage of the power of Quik-Irr. Let's start with the labor database. Here you add all your field labor employees and overhead employees, how much you pay them, how much time they work, and all the taxes and benefits associated. You end up with an estimation of total productive hours and a cost per hour. You will see how Quik-Irr uses this information in just a moment. Now let's look at the equipment database. Once again, the objective is to determine the cost per hour for each piece of equipment. Start by entering the acquisition cost and the anticipated lifetime use. Then add your cost of ownership, fuel, and maintenance. The result is a cost per hour for each piece of equipment. Next is company overhead. Here you'll enter in all the overhead costs associated with your company. You can input them as one line item or itemize the list. With all your overhead costs entered, Quik-Irr gives you your total estimated overhead expenses. It then looks at all the field labor employees you entered and determines the total number of productive hours you'll have in the year. With this information, it calculates an overhead cost per hour. This value needs to be added to every hour that an employee is working on a job. This approach, called the overhead per hour method, is considered by many experts to be the best approach for recovering overhead expenses. We are now ready to set up the Quik-Irr Operations database. As you'll see in a few minutes, this is a very powerful tool. Here you lay out all the tasks your company does. Each operation is broken down into tasks. For example, to install a lateral line, you need to trench, fit pipe, and backfill. Of course, to accomplish each task, you'll need to use labor and equipment resources. Notice that these are directly tied to the labor and equipment database that was set up earlier. Now all we need to do is add a production rate. For example, how many feet can your crews trench in an hour? With the operations complete, we can start a new project. We begin by giving the project a title, a bid number, a date, and profit margins. You can choose to recover overhead by percentage, but we recommend the overhead per hour method. Let's name our first bid item plant material and open it. The first thing we want to do is put together a materials list. Quik-Irr 6 introduces a new tool called Quote Paste. I'm going to open up a sample quote from a supplier. This one is an Excel spreadsheet, but we support a variety of digital formats, including HTML. So I'm going to select and copy the information from this quote, then go back into Quik-Irr 6 and paste it. This screen is going to pop up that shows what Quik-Irr thinks are the right columns for quantity, description, and cost. You can change them by simply right-clicking the mouse, but in this example, Quik-Irr got it right. So we'll click Paste, and in comes the materials list with costs. We can change quantities if we want, and the total price will be updated. So with Quote Paste, all we have to do now is start adding operations. So here on the trees, I just assigned the Plant Tree Small operation. This is directly linked to the operations set up in the operations database. Now if we go over to labor and equipment, we can see that the labor and equipment cost for planting those 18 trees is now added to the job. We can expand out and see all kinds of details, including a time estimate for each task. We can also refine things here. Let's say that on this particular job it's very rocky, and excavation is going to take us longer. We just change the production rate, and everything is readjusted for this job. The end result is a very quick way to take a quote from a supplier and determine all the costs for labor, all the costs for equipment, and all the costs for overhead, because as Quik-Irr looks at the total hours of labor for the job, it also is able to quickly add overhead costs using the overhead per hour rate that was determined in the overhead database. Let's start a new bid item for the sprinkler system. One of the powerful tools in Quik-Irr is the wizards. You can create your own wizards. A wizard is a series of screens that walks you through the material takeoff. Here you can see a list of all the wizard screens that are available. To add a screen, you simply left-click and select Add to Wizard. Let's get started with this wizard. The first thing we're going to do is decide how many nozzles we need for the Rainbird 5000s. So let's add 30 number 8 nozzles, some number 4s, and some number 2s. It now knows that I have 41 nozzles, and so it automatically adds 41 bodies. Normally you're ready to go to the next screen, but the first time through you will want to choose a swing joint as well. Let's choose swing pipe with Marlex. Here's the detail, and now all the parts of this assembly are going to be added to the material list. We're also going to add labor. Sprinkler installation is another operation that has been set up in the operations database. Quik-Irr will see those 41 heads, and because you set a rate for how many heads you can install in an hour, all the labor, equipment, and overhead costs are going to be added to the job. If we aren't working from plans, we can estimate the number of heads. Here, let's say that we're watering an area of 8,000 square feet with a boundary length of 600 feet, and we're going to use 12-foot spacing. We calculate and find we need 51 part circles and 31 full circles, so we'll assign nozzles, update and close, and now all these nozzles are being added to the job along with the bodies we want, and once again, the swing joint and labor costs. Next are valves. We'll select a valve we want, and then we can enter the quantity or use the estimator button. Let's select 1.5-inch valves. Quik-Irr looks at the total gallons per minute and quickly calculates that we need 7 valves for rotors and 4 for sprays. Next are valve boxes. Here again, if we use the estimator button, it immediately tells us we need 6 jumbo boxes, which is based on rules you can change. You just decide what size box you want for each valve size and how many valves you want per box. With mainline, you just enter the amount of mainline you need. It does remember your favorite type of pipe. Next are manifolds. We can build new manifolds, but today I'm just going to choose one that comes with the software, and then all I need to do is enter the total number of headers, and Quik-Irr will add all the parts we need for our manifolds to the materials list. Next, let's choose a clock and make sure we have enough stations. Now with lateral line, we can enter the amount of pipe, or we can estimate it. So we choose which heads, and then we decide if we are more end-fed or center-fed on average. We estimate and get all the lateral sizes and quantities we need. We can also take off sizes we don't want to use and quickly re-estimate. With lateral fittings, you can literally click a button and have a very good estimate for all the lateral fittings you're going to need. We could keep going through wizard screens for things like point of connection, backflows, and many others, but let's close the wizard now and see what it's been doing. As you can see, we now have a materials list that is well organized. Notice the info buttons associated with some products. I click and instantly have access to the cut sheet, making submittals a breeze. Not only is our materials list in place, but by going over to the Labor and Equipment tab, we can see all the labor and equipment costs broken down into each operation. Sometimes you need to add additional items to the materials list that weren't added using the wizard. Let's say we're going to add a Rainbird ET Manager to the job. I just start typing, and Quik-Irr searches and finds all the products associated with the ET Manager. I click the one I want, and it immediately is added to the materials list. Now I choose an operation, and labor and equipment costs are added. The search we just used is called a power search, but you can also use our search tree to find a product or the category search to find products. In addition to the things we have covered, there are simple sections where you can add all your subcontracts and general conditions. We can now review our bid, make any adjustments, and print our estimate. You can now be confident that your bid will not only cover your material costs, but labor, equipment, and overhead costs are also accurately estimated. Once you get the job, you can create a purchase order for the materials you need to buy. The time estimates provide a production budget for your foreman. Quik-Irr is simple to use, highly accurate, and helps make sure you are profitable on every job. You may purchase Quik-Irr online at irrasoft.net. If you have any questions, give us a call at 435-755-0400. Thank you.